Hey everyone, this is Momo from 21st Capital. Today we have a very special guest, someone who needs no introduction when it comes to health, performance, and challenging the status quo. It's none other than Dr. Shawn Baker. Dr. Baker, welcome to the show.
Well, Mobile, thanks for having me. I really appreciate you giving me a chance to chat to you and your audience. So thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing and maybe somehow unpredictable for you how much effect you've had on my life. Of course, I followed your carnivore podcast, and I've been a podcaster since 2021 when the lockdown started in our country in Poland. So I got bored. I had a lot of time on my own, so I started my podcast, and even my podcasting style changed as I listened to you. I find you a very open person. You can have Dr. Joel Kahn on your podcast and simply have a conversation, and that's something I really appreciate. I used to be someone who wanted to squeeze words out of the guests, but it helped me become a better listener and at the same time have a spine. Not that anything someone says, I say, yeah, I agree 100%. And on another podcast, on another episode, I say a different view. You really show what your views are. And at the same time, you are welcoming of other views. And that is open mindedness at its prime. And something very much more unexpected is that I got to know Bitcoin in 2016, but I didn't become a Bitcoiner until I listened to your show with Seyfeddin Amus.
Mm.
And I can't thank you enough for that. It was a 1 hour podcast and it made me a full Bitcoiner gradually and changed my whole life. So I appreciate you and how you have changed my life.
Well, thank you. And I think your point about having people with differing opinions. I mean, you learn something. I mean, I don't think I know it all, and I'm certainly wrong about something. I'm sure, but I mean, this is how you learn. And I mean, with Safe, as you know, Safe has been instrumental for converting a lot of people into Bitcoin. I think his Bitcoin Standard and his subsequent books have been quite educational for a lot of people. But Safe also is a carnivore and has been doing it for many years. So it's kind of interesting to see the intersection between folks that see how the money is broken, but we also see how the food is broken. I think they go hand in hand in many ways. We've got fiat currency and we've got fiat food. It was a great. I don't know if you read that book by Matt. I mess up his pronunciation. Lashayak, I think is how you say his name. Fiat food. Good book on that stuff. So yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, and that's also interesting, an interesting topic for me, and I appreciate if you delve into that. What are the parallels that you see between a carnivore diet, which is against the mainstream of eating mainly carbs and a bit of meat, preferably chicken, fish, low fat, uh, and Bitcoin? What are the parallels that you see?
Well, I think a lot of the parallels are in the people there. Obviously, most Bitcoiners are countercultural. They're challenging the status quo. They find that the sort of institutions that many people hold within high regard, they kind of question that, whether it's the U.S. Federal Reserve or the central banks or whatever the monetary systems that we have. And I think that sort of mindset opens you up to start questioning everything. I mean, and I think that's fair. I think we should question everything. I mean, we shouldn't take everything at word and or at face value. And I tell people don't trust me blindly either. Confirm it yourself. And this is something that I think is very important to be able to do. The I think in some ways the food system has paralleled the monetary system. As we've debased and devalued our monetary system, we've done the same with the food system. And so again, I think Seyfeddin does a really nice job describing how that has occurred. Whereas what you could buy in 1971 seems to be a critical year for something when we came off the gold standard. We had some similar things happening on the agricultural side with Earl Butz as the Secretary of Agriculture at the time. I think going to this go big or go home and trying to mass produce cheap calories across the board, and the result of that has been cheap nutrition, which leads to poor quality health. So that is something that I think you can see those parallels clearly there.
Yeah. For me, what piqued my interest was about Bitcoin was my interest in open source in general. I was a full-on nerd. Um, and your podcast with Safe also had a great impact in 1 hour. Anyone I want a orange pill, I send them that podcast. Um, but what piqued your interest, and what made you interested in Bitcoin?
Uh I think really it was Safedine. He contacted me, I think I was on I think it was when I was on Rogan, and then Safedine contacted me in 20, maybe it was 2018, I think. It might have been shortly. No, I think it was I think it might have been before I was on Rogan. In fact, I think if I recall correctly, and he said, "Hey, I've been doing carnivore, and I'd like to write a book about this, and I'd like to have you as a co-author." And we talked about it. We met, and we kind of hung out, and he told me a little about Bitcoin. I didn't really understand it at the time because I'm not a finance guy. I've never my background was in science and medicine, so it's not something I've ever had an opportunity to really study a lot. So he kind of introduced me into that world. And I kind of kept it in my back of mind. I didn't immediately, I mean, in retrospect, I wish I would have jumped in earlier, but I eventually came around to it. I think, honestly, listening to guys like Michael Saylor, and some of the arguments they were making were as I just kind of, continued to be exposed to more Bitcoiners, I started to listen, and finally it said, okay, this makes enough sense to me where I'm gonna jump in and start, basically dollar cost averaging and just holding Bitcoin. And that's what I've been doing now for several years now. But yeah, I mean, I think that that was my introduction. Obviously, Safe is one of the more outspoken members in the Bitcoin community. He has a wonderfully sharp, aggressive wit to him. He decimates people with his that are critical of it. I think he does a very nice job in that, and he's fun to listen to and talk to. And again, I've met a number of people within the Bitcoin community that are fairly. Robert Breedlove, I've been to his place to do podcasts. I've done, What Is Money, Marty Bent. I've talked to Marty. I've gotten with I guess it's the Unchained Capital people. Over there in Austin, Texas. They do the multi-sig, holding stuff, and so I've kind of uh, utilizing those guys. I guess it's an endorsement. I don't know. I mean, so I am not like I said, I will be the first one to met you. I'm not a Bitcoin expert. I know enough about to say, hey, let's just regularly buy it and stack sats and hold it. And that's as far as my knowledge. You're not going to gain any tremendous insights from me on Bitcoin. I still focus on nutrition and health as my area of expertise. It's just that I happen to also find that Bitcoin has a compelling enough story and utility. And there is that proof of work. I mean, it is now a multi-trillion-dollar asset, which didn't happen out of thin air. It's not magic. There are enough people that think it has inherent value that it's now valued at close to $2 trillion or something like that currently.
Yeah, I mean, the fiat system is huge, and for something to be able to stand against it, it had to be really unbeatable, and it's being proven to people over time. And as the time goes by, and people hear about it, and they hear it died, Bitcoin's dead. Every year there are so many of these obituaries, and then they realize, oh, okay, 3 years ago I thought Bitcoin was dead, but now it's hit all-time high. I'm not very much into price, but I can understand how price is a huge incentive. Of course, that is important for me, and when it goes up, I am happier. But that is a very good marketing thing for people to get into Bitcoin, and they over time they see that they heard it had died, but it has not, and it piques their interest, I believe, and it shows them that, oh, okay, I should study more about it. And the more it stays, the more people it will attract. Both carnivore diet and Bitcoin challenge mainstream narratives. When you talk about diet to someone and you say that only eat meat, I had 2 packs of bacon and 6 eggs for breakfast, they are like, dude, you're gonna die of a heart attack. And with Bitcoin, you talk to everyone. The more educated they are, the worse. They are like, inflation is actually good. A bit of inflation is good, and it will help the economy. It will help people spend more money and let the world improve. We got to the moon because of that. Um, why do you think, despite all these things, all these kind of narratives, and these institutions spend a lot of money propagating them, why do you think people get interested in something like carnivore diet or Bitcoin?
Well, I think that particularly, when it comes, I'll start with the health side first because I think it's easier to confirm. It's difficult to gaslight me into not realizing I'm healthy. I mean, when someone loses 100 pounds, or they're no longer diabetic, or they no longer need their autoimmune medication because their autoimmune disease has gone into remission or has been cured, it's really hard to convince a person that that did not occur. Whereas a lot of these things in the world, climate change, I mean, I don't know. I can just stare at the Pacific Ocean. I can't tell if it's raising. There's no way for me to independently verify that. So these are things we can independently verify. And so when enough people, and we do live in a time, like I am by no means the first guy to talk about eating only meat or meat-based diets to cure disease. This goes back to at least the 1700s when, Scottish surgeon James Rollo was treating diabetics with all meat diets way back in the 1790s. And but they didn't have the internet. They didn't have social media. It couldn't spread, to the degree it does today. Right now, like I can go on a podcast and, 5 million people can see it or something like that. I mean, we have this ability to massively propagate rapidly information, and people can confirm or deny. And I think good things will rise to the surface. And what we're seeing with this carnivore thing is consistently over and over again, people that do it and adopt it generally get healthier. Now there are exceptions. Not everybody does, but the vast majority of people seem to do so. So it's clearly there. And it's, there's at some point where you can't hide it anymore. Whereas 50 years ago, yeah, a few people might find out about it. Maybe there'll be some letters written here and there, but it's not going to spread like it does today. And I think the same thing's happening with Bitcoin. I mean, I think, there is that clear proof of work. I mean, it's like I said, that market valuation is not made up out of, it's there. It's actually happening. And we can see in real time how it has performed against every other asset class on the planet, whether it's real estate or gold or stocks. I mean, it's hard to argue against the value of Bitcoin over time. So you can literally see this thing as something that makes sense. And as you see more and more adopters, U.S. Strategic Reserve now being, I don't know if it's actually started yet, but I mean, that certainly looks like it's going to be a reality. I mean, in the Middle East, they've got one that's happening. We've got states that are wanting to pass a legislature to do that. We've got major corporations that are getting on board with that. I mean, obviously Michael Saylor with MicroStrategies has been one of the early adopters and one of the most vocal ones. But you see, BlackRock and some of these other organizations saying, "Hey, we need to get on board with this because it's going to happen." So, um, I think it is what it is. I mean, when something is actually effective and works and enough people realize it, then it's here to stay. I don't think carnivore is going anywhere. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be. A few years ago, I made the prediction that I think within about 5 years, it'll be one of the most commonly prescribed treatment modalities for a lot of chronic diseases, as it should be. I think we live in a society where everybody has been trained to take the pill. Take the pill, a pill for every ill, potions, pills, and procedures is all I know as a doctor. I mean, when it comes to health and creating health, there are broad variety of things that are helpful: nutrition, exercise, sleep, circadian rhythm, stress management. All those things are things that I don't have any expertise in from my medical training. I had to gain those things independently. And now I say I've got a pretty good understanding of a lot of these things and how they impact. But most physicians are not trained in that. We're just trained to think a very narrow way. And I think the same thing with, I mean, I guess, and again, I'm not a financial expert, but I think there's people that will say, stick your money in the stock market. If you stick $100 a month away, by the time you're 65, you'll now have $2 million, which will probably be worth, $50,000, given
Yeah.
inflation. It's like you've got to at least beat inflation on your ROI when you're investing. And I don't think, I mean, I guess, I mean, I think most people, they got to stick money in an IRA and they look at it in $1980 and they're like, I didn't really make much money. It's like, what did I do? So
Yeah, and we see so many people that are mm, so many people that are coming to Bitcoin, and it is really surprising, or starting to kind of cut down on the negativity they had about Bitcoin. It was very surprising to me that I saw Peter Schiff. Maybe you have also heard about it, that he posted out a tweet about Bitcoin, and he said that I am surprised that the US is thinking um, about what is that shitcoin XRP? I don't even remember its full name.
Yeah.
Um, and it would make more sense for them to integrate Bitcoin. And I was like, I checked, is it really Peter Schiff? I was really surprised. And of course, these things work. Carnivore works, as you said. Nobody can gaslight you into thinking that you are going to die any minute. Doesn't matter how your lab works. And I think I have heard it on your podcast and say that instead of looking at the person, we are looking at the lab work. And we should shift this. We should look at the person that we are treating. Another thing I have, yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, like I said, I think some of the early criticisms of Bitcoin were it's used only to traffic drugs and illegal activities, and then it was using too much energy, and we were starting to see that those criticisms. Same thing with carnivore. Oh, you're going to get scurvy. Oh, you're going to drop dead. It's not sustainable, and obviously no one's getting scurvy, and it's sustainable. So now there has to be different criticism, and they're becoming weaker and weaker, and it's just like. Well, what about quantum computers? Well, what if quantum computers are going to wreck Bitcoin? They're going to wreck everything else too. So, I mean, it's like, what is your real argument here? So with carnivore, it's like, well, maybe you're not going to die right away, but you're going to die, or you're going to die. Yeah, so are you. I mean, it's just like, it's like, it's like the criticism gets weaker and weaker and weaker as the obvious becomes known.
Yeah, it might. Um, Maybe people do not like to hear that, but 10 out of 10 people would die out of something anyway at some point in their life.
Well, except for this Brian Johnson guy who claims he's gonna beat
Yes.
death by injecting, stuff into his penis and taking Cialis and taking all his silly supplements. I mean, that
Yeah,
he's never done that.
what do you think about that? Do you think that to live healthy, we have to be so artificial? We have to become a scientist and work in a lab to figure out how to live
No,
healthy?
I don't. I don't think that. I don't think that at all. I think the fact that he wants to take 100 plus supplements a day and do all these crazy procedures to eke out a little bit more, and his claims. I mean, it's all marketing, obviously. It's like, it's kind of funny. You've had two guys named Brian Johnson. Both of them have been total scam artists. One was called the Liver King, Brian Johnson. Now you have the
Oh yeah.
don't die guy, Brian Johnson. The only Brian Johnson I think is credible is a guy, the lead singer from AC/DC, who's also Brian Johnson. he may outlive all those guys as a hard, rock and roll guy.
I think with the
Interesting.
history of kind of hard drug and crazy
Yeah, like
parties, it
Keith
would.
Richards. You can't kill Keith Richards. He's like a cockroach, from the Rolling Stones. He's been smoking and drugging, and he's like 85 and still going strong. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. One of the other things I have learned from you is that you are able, from you, and to be honest, from other guys, I have followed Dr. Finney's work less than before, but Stephen Finney, am I saying his name right?
Yeah, Steve Finning was one of the original proponents of of ketogenic diet. So
Ketogenic
he
diet,
helped
yeah.
define some of the nutritional ketosis stuff. He along with a guy named Jeff Volek. They've been around, and Finney's been a researcher since the 1970s. So he's a obviously very well educated guy, very 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 successful in that realm. But yeah.
Yeah, and the good old Dr. Hallberg, who is not with us anymore, they were really good proponents of that. I mean, you, along with them, and so many of the other people that I see in the carnivore space, you with Rivero, are doing good and proving that doing good is also a viable business model. You don't have to keep people sick
Yeah.
to give them more. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that is something. I look at like what we are doing with Rivero, and for those in your audience that aren't familiar, Rivero is a digital health company where we actually treat people with the effort to treat the root cause, to get them off drugs, to actually make them healthy rather than just medicate for the rest of their life. And I mean, yeah, I mean, our average patient is going to be with us for 6 months and then they're done. And we're like, good, go away. Don't need a doctor. But as the typical business model is, you're on recurring drugs for the rest of your life. And so you see all the drugs that are being developed are these recurring injections, like these GLP-1 drugs where you take them, once a week for the rest of your life, ideally is what they want you to do. Or you take your diabetes meds for the rest of your life, or your blood pressure meds, or your anti-anxiety meds. I mean, these are all these things that we just do. And I mean, I don't know if you remember Goldman Sachs, the big, financial institution, basically was asked a few years ago, does it make sense to cure disease? And they said, resoundingly, no, it does not make financial sense to cure disease. And so this is the model that our healthcare system
Wow.
is operating on. It's to continually generate revenue through this subscription, annually recurring subscription of meds for the rest of your life. And that is just not, I just don't think that's ethically the right thing to do. And so we're trying to do I think the thing that physicians should be doing, getting people healthy. And that involves getting them off medications. And hopefully they don't need you anymore. I mean, maybe if they get in a car wreck, yeah, they need acute services. But I mean, from a chronic disease management standpoint, uh, that's the wrong way to do it. And so what we're doing is, I think, ethically the right thing to do. We'll have to see how financially viable that is over the term. I think it can be. I think it makes sense to save people money, to make them more productive, to fix their health. I think that is actually a good business model. Can be.
If you don't mind, could you also elaborate on how the business has been doing and
with with what regard what we're doing
with
with
Rivero? Yeah.
yeah. So we launched almost a year ago here, and we started out with a few patients in a few states. We now have expanded that to all 50 states. We've hired lots and lots of physicians. There's a lot of physicians who want to work for us because they're like, I like seeing my patients actually get healthy for the first time. And so we, of course, have to train them in all the sort of various protocols we've put together for various diseases, and how you treat that with nutrition and lifestyle, and how to deprescribe medications safely and effectively. So we are, like I said, we're collecting data. We'll be publishing our data. Early data shows very, very good results, across the board on various disease conditions. And so what we'll be doing now is upping our marketing so we can hopefully, get more and more patients. I mean, I'm starting to see some network effect where we're seeing people saying, hey, this is a good idea for your sister or your brother, or your cousin or your mother, and starting to recommend that. I want to turn Rivero into a verb. And so you can say, hey, I've got diabetes. Why don't you just go Rivero it? You can Rivero it, like you can Google it.
Google it. Yeah.
And I'm trying to get people to say Rivero it, and get that out there into the lexicon, so that becomes the standard answer for chronic disease, instead of, the pills for every ill, pills, drugs for the rest of your life. You can Rivero cure a disease and be, 6 months to a year, you don't have the disease anymore. I think that's a noble aspiration. And so yeah, I'm very optimistic. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's not easy standing up a health company to be licensed in every state. I mean, there's a lot of regulations and rules and HIPAA compliance stuff, and all this, stuff you have to do with, and having software engineers that can make sure your systems run correctly. And I mean, there's a lot to it. So, but I'm glad we got up and we stood up off the ground and got rolling, and we're 1 year in, and good things are coming. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and how about the people that come to you? Are they already convinced that they are going to take this path, or do they come with lots of criticism? And thanks to the fiat food system, there are sick people in all generations. It's not just old people who are sick. I was obese and pre-diabetic when I was around 27, and I
Mm.
reversed it first with keto, then with carnivore. So I assume that you have mm, clients from, I don't like to use the word patients, clients from all generations. How are their attitudes? Are they already convinced, or do you have to do some work and tell them that, okay, cholesterol is not that demon that you think it is? So
Well, I mean, just in general terms, there are people that will come to us, and we will screen them for applicability. Like, if you're not unwilling to make lifestyle changes, then we can't help you. I mean, that's just right from the beginning. If you're unwilling to change what you eat and how you conduct your daily activities, and you're saying, look, I'm then there's nothing we can do for you, honestly. So I mean, not everybody that But most people understand that before they sign up. They realize this is a lifestyle-based intervention program. And so, I mean, there are some people that they're just inappropriate for us because of, there's certain conditions that are just not well treated over the internet. Some of it needs face-to-face, intervention. Like if you're having, active chest pain where you need to go to the ER and get that, we're not the place for that. I mean, we're not, we're not doing primary care where you come in with a sprained ankle. We're not going to be able to treat you. I mean, this is specific for chronic disease, whether it's autoimmune disease, metabolic disease, diabetes, obesity, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, something along those lines, psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, or things of that nature. These are the things we have, I think, good efficacy for. And so, but yeah, I mean, most of the people, like I said, every week I do a meeting and I have as many Rivera patients who want to come. Last night we had 50 people show up, and we just talk to them about what issues are there, how to motivate them, how to get them on the right track. But for the most part, it's nice because not only does the physician want to do the things to help you and facilitate that, but you also have patients that want to be there. And it makes it, from a physician standpoint, when you have patients that actually want to get healthy, it makes your job a lot better. You're happier as a provider, as a physician. Whereas before, you're in there, people like people that would come to see me as an orthopedic surgeon, they do not want to see me. They don't want to get their knee replaced. There's a lot there, but they have to. It's like, I just have to be there. So they're going to make the best of it. But now you have people that are anxious. They want to see you. And that makes a big difference in how things go.
Yeah. Imagine a world where uh, the fiat system has become weaker, so these models that keep people sick are more out the window. How can you imagine that world? What would the role of a doctor be in that situation?
Uh, you talking about the standard model at this point?
I mean, in the future, if more people are healthier and have embraced
Right,
carnivore
right,
diet and
right,
stuff like
right.
that.
So, I mean, if let's just say, for some reason, we decide that everyone decides I'm not going to eat garbage food and I'm going to take care of my health, and we don't have as much chronic disease like maybe we had, 50, 75 years ago. You're still going to need, obviously, physicians that are skilled at acute care because people are still going to crash their car. People are still going
Yeah,
to get infectious diseases. People are still going to have babies. So those things are still going to become valuable. So I think we're going to see less reliance. I mean, this is what we should see. We should see less prevalence and incidence of chronic disease. I mean, maybe we only see it in the very old people, and the younger people just don't experience this as much. Um, I think that that is something that is one future, the future that I'd like to see, and I'm trying to facilitate through our company. Um, the other real reality is that, with people pushing for this pharmaceutical model where we're going to put everybody on these new drugs, this new drug technology, whether it's GLP-1 injections or cholesterol vaccines or whatever they're coming up with, whatever the technology dictates. And what we're going to see is a push for more AI driven healthcare where, you, instead of going to see a physician, which is expensive. I mean, it costs a lot. You've got to provide the doctor's offices, the multi-million-dollar structures, the nurses, the nursing assistants, the secretaries, the administrative people. Now you can supplant a lot of that with AI, and you can just say, "Hey, I'm going to go and just go onto my computer, and I'm going to say these are, I'm not even going to type it in. I'm just going to talk. I'm going to say, hey, computer, I feel really bad. I've got this. I haven't been sleeping well, blah, blah, and answer a few questions. And I'm going to stick my finger in a little interface that will now analyze my blood directly at home through the computer. And the AI is going to diagnose you, and they're going to say this is, you have a 78% likelihood of this and 24% likelihood of this, and how would you like to proceed? And oh, by the way, there's the legislature being looked at in the U.S. Congress to say that the AI can now have a medical license, right? So now the AI is allowed to treat you. And so what does that do? Well, that cheapens up the cost
yeah,
tremendously by orders of magnitude. So now we just say, okay, well, you have this, and guess what? Now we have an Amazon delivery drone that's going to drop your medicine off at your house, at your doorstep later this evening, right? This is we're going to see how that that standard allopathic model is going to just make it easier for the consumers to get drugs in their hands quicker and more cheaply. And you can be damn sure hospital administrators, healthcare administrators want to see that model because they don't have to deal with pesky doctors that don't follow the line 100% of the time or actually have concerns and questions. So the pharmaceutical industry will further cement their grip on healthcare in that regard. And a lot of people will welcome that because you know what? I don't have to go deal with a doctor. I don't have to deal with scheduling, and I can do it all from the convenience of my own home and get the drugs I need, delivered to me at a much cheaper rate. So we will see that. We'll see that. That will be some part of the chronic health for those people that want to do that. And anybody that questions that will be put out of a job. Right. So we can go one of two ways, I think. And I think we're going to see a big push for that.
I'm not a biologist, but when I hear something like cholesterol vaccines, cancer vaccines, and stuff like that, I cringe
Mm.
because first of all, my knowledge of biology and medicine is very limited. It's just out of my interest. But as I learned at my school, a vaccine is a form of a weakened virus or the virus in a smaller dose, so or even the dead virus, so that your body reacts to it and makes the pathogens. But when you hear someone uses that term, being a doctor, how is your reaction that they want to make a vaccine for cholesterol? What does it even mean? It's not a virus. What's your body gonna do, and why do they use the term vaccine for it?
Well, you know, it is disturbing to me as well. I think that one, the thought that we could potentially make people where they cannot produce cholesterol to the degree we have because we think it's associated with heart disease, to me is extremely concerning because cholesterol has a number of roles in the body. And if we cannot synthesize it to the degree that we do, and the vast majority of the cholesterol that is floating around our body has been synthesized by our body, primarily by our liver, something like 80 to 90% of it. And to say that suddenly we're going to somehow decrease our capacity to do that likely will have all kinds of untoward side effects. It's like you just don't know what you're unraveling. And I don't know who the first kids are that you're going to vaccinate for this stuff. I mean, they're probably going to do it to some poor kid living in a third world country as the initial guinea pigs. And we'll see what happens to those folks. Don't sign me up for it. Don't sign my kids up for it, my grandkids up for that. I mean, I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a potential for tremendous disaster. I mean, I think we're finding out that cholesterol, particularly in the setting of a low carb diet, is not a problem. I mean that seems to be where the literature seems to be going, where the science is going, and yet people think that they can make a lot of money. And there's people that will happily sign their kids up to a gene editing program to limit their ability to produce cholesterol. And we won't know the results of this for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, perhaps. And by then it's like, can you reverse that? I don't know that you can.
Yeah, and that's really sad and disturbing to see. Yeah, what would you say to someone who thinks both Bitcoin and all meat diet are too extreme? Why are you so dogmatic? Eat some cake for God's sake. What would you say?
Well, first of all, I am not dogmatic about a carnivore diet. I think if you want to do it, fine. I don't think everybody needs to do it. I think it definitely is beneficial. I certainly will defend those people that do get benefit from that and want to do that. And I think it's a very valid way of living your life and certainly mitigating disease. I think that's clear to me that occurs. I think that those are critical. I mean, there's people I just so there was a criticism from a guy, the snake diet guy, calling everybody on a carnivore diet a retard, right? I disagree. I just think that is a way to live your life. I mean, hopefully we live in a society where people are allowed to have choices, and if that's offensive to you, That's your problem, in my view. I mean, and same thing with Bitcoin. I mean, like I said, there's, as you guys probably know, I think at one point China, maybe I think it's maybe India now, that both those countries have
True.
decided to say that Bitcoin is not legal here or
Yes.
something along those lines, and that to me is a problem. I don't know that just as very much as I would not like to say that we should make junk food illegal.
Yeah.
Just like cigarettes are not illegal in the United States. Some people would argue they should be. I'm not in that. I'm not in that group. I take a little bit more of a libertarian sort of view on some of these things. But I think you should have some level of education to say that if I choose to do that, if I choose to smoke cigarettes, I can do so. But there's going to be there potentially may be a negative consequence to that. I mean, we did in the United States go from a rate of smoking in 1954 of 45% to what it is today, which is somewhere around 13%, and that was done through a very deliberate campaign, both from the corporate side and the governmental side, to say that smoking is not good for us, and we're going to no longer, like when I was a kid, I grew up going on airplanes where you could smoke on an airplane, and I can remember being a 10-year-old kid sitting there with red eyes, so irritated from all the cigarette smoke, just with hatred in my eyes for the person sitting 2 rows from me in front of me smoking a cigarette, where all that smoke was just coming into my face as a 10-year-old kid, not knowing any better. Like, I don't know why I don't like this, but it is not fun, and it is making me a miserable human being. We went from that situation to where now you can't, you go on any airplane, at least any airplane I've been on, it's like, can't smoke in the bathroom, can't do any of that stuff. And I think that's been to me a net benefit. So um, I just find that, same thing with Bitcoin. Some people find Bitcoin offensive. You mentioned Peter Schiff. He's the gold guy. Obviously, and it's not to say that gold is not better than fiat currency, but again, is Bitcoin even better than gold for the various reasons that many people have made? It's obviously it is. There's only 21 million of them, and it gets harder and harder to extract. You've got to solve that problem, which becomes more and more precious. And the fact that 2 million of them have been lost, so now there's only maybe 19 million of Bitcoin that can exist.
Yeah, I'm gonna die on this hill and say that people like Peter Schiff are not evil or not trying to just not see where Bitcoin is going, and his recent tweets kind of testifies to that. Um, uh, but people can change, and he's very solid on Austrian economics. I have heard his interviews. I really love the guy. And of course, I can understand due to his age, he understands gold better. And as for the snake guy, I remember you mentioned in one of your solo videos that he mentioned that he drank his own piss. And he said it's very
Yeah,
rich
yeah.
for a guy like that to say that. Yeah, carnivores are retards.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think when you go on record saying you like to drink your own urine, you lose some level of credibility. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I tend to dismiss people that talk about drinking their own urine. I kind of find their credibility is taken a bit of a hit when you do that.
Mhm. And you were very, you know, you had a very vital role in making me the kind of Bitcoiner that I am, and I am hosting a Bitcoin podcast right now. And in return, I would like to introduce something to you. And if you want to get on it, I would fully support you. Your friend Ken Berry is on it. Nostr, have you heard about it?
I have heard about Noster. I have to say that again, I don't have I don't want to say that I don't have I just haven't had I guess time to understand it, to something, I've got so many other things that are going on
Sure.
in my life that I just don't, you know, I'm not opposed to it, and like I said, I think it probably has some value. I mean, I'm sure it does. I just like many things, I've got a lot of just stuff going on that uh, I've only got so much resource to delve into new things. But I'm not opposed to it at all.
Yeah, there is this thing, opportunity cost, that every Bitcoiner is aware of. That, yeah, I totally understand that. And just to make it easier, there are so many apps that have made it easy, such as Damus and Primal, and you can connect your Lightning wallet to your Primal. Primal has made it very easy. Highly recommend them. I use Primal on a daily basis on both my browser and on my phone. And by the way, this show is being streamed on a service called Zap Stream, which is also
Mhm.
built on Nostr. I'm paying for it for every minute that we are live, but it is um, not for the. I mean, it is still the person who is hosting the data is able to take it down, but they have less incentive to make the kinds of algorithms that everyone is kind of bombarded by on X and Instagram. When I am on X and Instagram or Facebook, I really see the difference when I come back to Nostr. That it is blissfully boring. I say it with much love, with all love in my heart. That I just see what the people that I have chosen to follow have to say. I am not just shown the same kind of meme all over again just because that app knows it has to keep my eyeball. It is mostly, and as for your data, you can choose to host your data. If you are technically capable, you can definitely host your video. In my case, I am paying a service, and when I pay for it, it is not like YouTube that says that I am doing a favor hosting your video, so I take it off. So there's a resistance there. And if I am technically capable, I will be able to even host it myself. So it will never go down. And this is much easier for the kind of tweet like post that you can share, that you can easily spin off uh, your own note, your own relay, the correct term here, and save your data there. And anyone can reach out to your relay. We had Trump's deplatforming just several years ago, and something like that can never happen on Nostr because Trump can host his own data, and anyone who, without having to change platforms, just by choosing to connect to that relay, can get his data. So nobody can censor you, and that's really interesting. And more importantly, you can get zaps, which is amazing. Which is, you can directly get payments in form of Lightning. You can get sats in form of Lightning, which is very encouraging and just cuts the middleman out. You don't have to get verified. You don't have to play the algorithm game. You just are yourself. I don't get much traction on X, on Instagram somehow, but uh, on Nostr, my posts that don't have anything with the trending things still get traction because people who are following me know me and want more of the stuff that I want to post. It doesn't care. There's no algorithm, and even if there is an algorithm, you can curate and make it yourself. So I highly recommend trying something like Damus or Primal, and it is very easy. And we would be really grateful to have you there. We already have Dr. Berry there. Some other carnivore guys are there. So it would be amazing.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. It's just a matter of, just
Yeah.
figuring out how to do it, this type of thing. And like I said, I'm already, like I said, again, it's I'm on like 5 different platforms already,
Mm.
and it just becomes how much time and effort. And if it's something that's of no additional effort, then that's not. It seems to make sense. I've got a little bit of a social media team that kind of helps me, and I did point to them, talk to them about Nostr, and they were kind of like, well, can we figure that out? It's one of those things that, depending on how complicated it is really probably the barrier, I suppose. Like anything, like adopting Bitcoin. A lot of people are just, they don't understand it. They don't understand the technology in it. There's a little bit of a, technological barrier, I guess, for some.
Yeah, and that's totally understandable, and it's really amazing to see that internet, as we see it today, is going to be reborn on Nostr, and that's a less likely. There's a less likelihood of censorship there. That's really amazing. Thank you very very much, Dr. Baker. It was a great chat, and I want to be respectful of your time. I know that you had only 1 hour for this show, and we kind of covered most of the questions that are of interest to our audience. And I really enjoyed every second of chatting with you. And by the way, anytime you come to Poland, drop me a message. I would love to see
I
you in
will. I
person.
will if I get over to Poland. I know I'll be spending a little more time, at least in Europe. So maybe I can make a trip up to Poland. Would be really wonderful. I know there's a couple brothers. What is it? The Radix or something like that. I don't know if you know those guys.
I
They're,
don't know, unfortunately.
yeah, they're two twin brothers. They're both physicians, and they're very popular in Poland. So
Mhm.
I don't speak Polish, so I can't tell you that.
Yeah, that's the problem that I don't speak Polish either. I am
Ah,
originally Iranian, so
I see. That's an
that
interesting
must be
thing.
the
So,
reason. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I remember once you posted some picture of yourself. You were in Warsaw. If you
no,
announced
I've
them in
I've never I've
advance,
never been to Poland. I've never been.
I've
I've
never
been
been.
to Serbia. I've been
Czech
to.
Republic.
Sorry, not even Serbia. I've been to Slovakia. I've been once
Uh-huh.
to many years ago. I've been in Prague. I was in Bratislava. I've
Uh-huh.
been to Bosnia Herzegovina recently,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, I would like to go to Poland at some point. It'd be fun to visit.
Yeah, yeah, come in summer because in winter it's just crazy. So I
Yeah.
misremember the part about you being in Warsaw. Uh, yeah, it kind of broke my heart that you came here, but I didn't get a chance to see you. Probably it's been Prague and it was still close. So yeah, now it is kind of unbroken. That's good.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Mo. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure, anytime. Thank you, Dr. Baker.
Okay.
Have a
I'll
great
talk to you
rest of the day.
soon. Bye bye now.